What is up? It's your boy A-Rock back in the bedroom garden. I figured I'd take a little bit of time today and make a video for you guys on how to prepare your water for watering. Yep. Alrighty, as you can see, this is my grow rack. This is the rack that I have most of my equipment on. That's not my tent and stuff like that. Yep. Right here I have my bucket. My bucket is a 2-gallon food grade bucket from Walmart. I've got it marked at 2 liters, 4 liters, and 6 liters because right now I'm running 3-gallon pots. So what I like to do is I like to water each pot with 2 to 2.5 liters of water apiece. That way it'll give me a dry back time of 3 to 4 days. That way I know my watering schedule without underwatering or overwatering my plants. Yep, plus that 2.5 liters of water will soak the pot all the way through, so I know it's really, really good in water when I do water. Yep, now what I like to do is I like to get some water, and I use RO water from Walmart. Yep, the water that you can get back in the water station. Yep, I like using that water because it's RO water, it's UV filtered, it's charcoal filtered, all that stuff. Like, so I ain't got to worry about any contaminants or any kind of crazy stuff in my water. Alrighty, now I'll get this bucket full. And like I said, I like to do about 2.5 liters of water for each pot. So I like to fill a little ways past my 6-liter mark. Yep. And then what I like to do is I take my bucket here, put it up on my rack, and I add my air stones. Now my air stones are just 2 little cheap Walmart fish tank air stones that are run to a 2-hose pump. Yep. So it's got enough for me to be able to get my water aerated without it being too much or without it using too much energy, so on and so forth. Because remember, we're rock bottom budget growers here, so the cheaper you can get, the better. Alrighty, now that water is aerating, I'll take a second here and I'll show you guys what I do with my pHing, okay? Now, I like to use general hydroponics, pH up and pH down, okay? Now, here's the deal. The water that I get is always high in pH, so I never, ever, ever have to pH up, okay? So what I've done is I went to Dollar Tree and I got some of their craft dropper bottles, and what I did was the pH down is very, very strong. So when I'm doing a small batch of water like this, I can use 1 drop of that undiluted pH down and it will jump the pH. I'm talking 3-4 points at one time. Yeah, it's crazy. So I take this little dropper bottle and I use distilled water and I make a 5-to-1 ratio dilution of the pH down solution. So I'll use 1/5 pH down and 4/5 distilled water in this bottle. That way, it gets me to the point where I can be a little bit more accurate when I'm pHing my water. Now, this is about 7 liters of water, so we'll add about 10 drops of this solution to see if it gets us where we need to be at. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We'll go 11 just for good measure. There we go. Yep. All righty. Then you get in here and stir it up good. Alrighty. I'll let that set for just a second while I'm telling you guys about how I actually water the plants. When I go to water them, usually the soil is a little bit hydrophobic, so I like to take a spray bottle and I like to spray the top of the pot until it's moist all the way through the top, at least a little bit. And then what I like to do is I like to use a 1-liter flowering can or a 1-liter watering can, and I like to water each pot 2 liters at a time. That way I don't lose track of who I'm watering, how much I'm watering, or where I'm watering. And then at the end is when I'll take the last liter or so and spread it amongst the 3. Yep. Alrighty. Now, what I'll do is I'll show you guys how to pH your water. I bought myself a nice Apera pH 20 pH tester because one thing that I learned is that if you are using a cheap pH tester, you're shooting yourself in the foot. This pH tester right here, I spent $50 on Amazon, but it's one of those kind of things where when you need to make an investment in your grow, you need to make an investment in your grow. And your pH pen is definitely one of those things. These little yellow and black ones or black and green ones that you can get for like $9, $10, $12 off of Amazon, they're literally worthless. They're literally worthless, especially because of the little powder calibration stuff they come with and everything. Don't waste your time, okay? But anyway, this nice Apera pH 20 pen also comes with calibration fluid, and that calibration fluid will last you almost forever if you use it by itself with the pen. Yep. Alrighty, let's get this pen on here. We'll get us a little wrap of paper to dry it with. Alrighty, let's see where we're at here. Now, the Apera pH 20 pen takes a little while to level out, so you have to be patient with it sometimes. But once it does level out, it's damn accurate, so it's worth buying. I've looked and researched other pens, and the Apera pH 60 is almost as expensive as the Blue Labs pen. Alright, she's getting there. I like to aim for a pH of between 6.0 and 6.5. That way I know for a fact it's not too high, and I know for a fact it's not too low. Yep. Of course, depending on what kind of plants you're growing, though, check your pH ranges for the plant that you're growing, of course. So if you're growing bell peppers, check the pH range for bell peppers. If you're growing tomatoes, check the pH range for tomatoes, and you'll have much, much healthier plants. Alrighty, it says she's sitting at about 6.7, so I know I can add about 3 more drops of my pH solution and she'll be right in range. Yep. Now I know one thing that people are going to rake me over the coals for, okay, is everybody and their brother will tell you that these pH pens need a solution to be stored in. And of course, yes, that's the proper way to do it, of course. But I've learned with this Apera pH 20 is that if you get it bone dry, I mean bone dry before you store it. That's why I'm blowing through it and then drying it again. If you get it bone dry before you store it, I mean even letting it set here without the cap on for a while in the case when you're done doing your pHing, you will have very good results if you keep the pen bone dry. That's the secret without having the solution anyway. Yep. And now, like I was saying, when I pH my water, I like to do it without anything else in the water. Okay, nothing. I don't do it with CalMag in there or anything else. Of course, people say you should pH after you add your additives, but I'm using soil, so soil buffers the pH to a point. And I don't want any contaminants on the probe of my pH pen whatsoever. I've had that pH pen for 3 years now, and it's been dead accurate for me all 3 years. I've went sometimes almost up to 6 months without having to calibrate that pen, believe it or not. Yep. Alrighty, so we'll add that last couple of drops of the pH down. Alrighty. And then we'll get that stirred in there. Now, what I like to do is I like to let this water set for at least 6 to 12 hours minimum to aerate and let the water aerate. That way, any chlorine that is in there will come out. People say you should have it, set for 24 hours while it's bubbling, but I'm using such a small batch of water that it should aerate just fine in that amount of time, 6 to 12 hours. Yep. Alrighty, other than that, basically, that's all there is to it as far as preparing your water for wanting the water. Like I said, I make myself a dilution of the pH down. That way it's easier for me to hit my target pH. And of course, even though I have my nice pen, I have the pH drops for backup. That way every now and then I can take my little vial and I can double check and make sure my pen is still in calibration. Yep. Alrighty, you guys, I think that's about it for now. Yeah, that covers the watering situation pretty well. So, I hope you guys have a good time. Thanks for hanging out with me for a little while and letting me show you how to water your plants. Alrighty, you guys have a good day.